Hey, Laurel with Impact Gardening. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about some interior plants that we have. So let's get started. This beautiful plant here is a hybrid, and it's a philodendron called Weeks Red. Look at the size of that leaf compared to my hands, right? So this leaf already is over 3 feet long. It's spanning over 8 feet wide right now and about 3 feet tall, but it will get about 4 feet tall, and of course it can go in excess of the 8 feet wide. Very beautiful hybrid philodendron. And here is the beauty of this plant. This is how the new leaves come out in this red casing, and so they have this speckled red stem and the veining that's light red with this beautiful blush type pink undercarriage, and then it opens up into a nice green color. This is a newer leaf as well, not fully open, but you can see it's already losing some of that pinky red, but just absolutely stunning. There's also a flower that comes out of this. So let me show you. It's a little like a tulip type flower that comes out here, and so the flowers are pretty short. The beauty of this plant is not only the new leaves, but just these beautiful curvy super large leaves of this philodendron. So that's Weeks Red. Next to the Weeks Red is an Alocasia. Isn't that beautiful? And now that Alocasia is called Regal Shield. And just a word about the difference between an Alocasia and a philodendron. So the Alocasia differs from the philodendron in the way it is propagated and grown. So Alocasias will grow from tubers or rhizomes underneath. And so the new plants will emerge from those, as opposed to a philodendron, which can be either terrestrial or epiphytic. Take a look at the root here for this philodendron. So in other words, an epiphytic, this is sort of a root, and that allows the philodendron to climb on trees, and it can also send those roots down to get nutrients from the soil. So that's the difference between a philodendron and an Alocasia. An Alocasia will just be terrestrial. A philodendron is epiphytic or terrestrial. But don't be alarmed if you don't know the difference between the two. Many people don't. They both are large, they have the same type of growing habits, and they need the same type of care. Indirect sunlight, they prefer shade. This beautiful Alocasia Regal Shield was actually hybridized right here in South Florida. Beautiful purple under the bottom with these lime green veining, and then has a dark green satin leaf on the top side. And so this was hybridized, I think, from Alocasia Black Velvet, which gives it the coloring, and Alocasia, I think it's Adora, which gives it the size. But just absolutely stunning, and that's actually a patented hybridization. Next, we have this lovely plant in this pot, and it's a Jamaican Poinsettia. Now, I should know about this plant as a Jamaican American, but I just found out about it when we purchased it a year and a half ago. This is considered an evergreen and a succulent, and we're going to take a closer look at this so I can show you why. If you pop the leaf, there's a milky substance that, can you see that milky substance that comes from it when you break the leaves? So it actually is a bit succulent and has that milky substance which can be toxic to humans and to animals. Now, this is said to propagate from seeds, but since we've had it, I've seen small plants pop up, and I'm pretty sure I can probably get those started and going. They grow, these are trees or shrubs, growing about 15 feet in height. It can be trained into a bonsai as we have it here in a pot, and if you keep it pot bound, then you control the growth of it so it doesn't get very leggy and branchy. Now, this plant loves to be dry. It does not like to be wet. We're now in the rainy season. In fact, it just finished raining. It's been raining all day since early this morning. And during the rainy season, when it's more moist, it will be more evergreen. This is how it flowers. These are actually bracts with a little tiny flower. I'm going to try to show you that. So it's this corally red bract, and then it has these little yellow flowers. They are stunning. When in the drier season, when this tree is not getting so much water, those bracts are completely covering the tree, and so are the bees. The bees love it. And so it's a very good pollinator, great for bees. Great to be used as a bonsai and contained in a pot, or you can use it as a standing small plant, small tree or shrub. Next we have another South Florida native. This is actually native to South Florida. It's called a Simpsonstopper. And this is going to grow as a small tree or shrub as well, about the same height as a Jamaican poinsettia. Very good to have in your landscaping. It has these little tiny, very dainty, creamy color flowers that smell sort of like a lilac. And the butterflies love it. In fact, the butterflies were all over it before when it wasn't raining. And then after flowering, it does get these little red seeds, berries that the birds love. So it attracts butterflies and birds. I am told that the berries from the Simpsonstopper are edible, but I've never had them, and I don't know anyone who's had berries from the Simpsonstopper, so I have no idea what they taste like, but it is edible. By the way, the Simpsonstopper is not particular about the kind of soil. If you have sandy soil, if you have clay-like soil, very rocky soil, it's not very particular. It's also not very particular about the kind of condition in terms of drought or not. It can be in a drought-tolerant area or place that gets more water. It just is a very good plant, very adaptable, and a great addition to your to a zone 10 gardening. Next, we have this lovely, massive spathiphyllum or peace lily. Now, before I even start, I can tell you already, one of the things that the spathiphyllum is susceptible for is snails. You can see that the snails are literally eating this plant away. And so we do need snail baits. It can get root rot and it can get mites. We don't have root rot here, we don't have mites, but we do have snails. Also, whatever part of the plant is not falling under the eaves is getting a bit of yellowing and burning. So it prefers indirect sunlight. It doesn't need a lot of sunlight, and it will do just great. So now these leaves, when they get too yellow or brown, you can always cut them back from the base, and the plant continues to look great. It's also a great plant for indoors because it is said to purify the air of toxins such as benzene, formaldehyde, ammonia, etc. So wonderful plants to be around humans. I don't believe it'll get this wide. This is about 6 feet across, and it's already about 5 feet, almost 5 feet high. So tall. I don't believe it'll get that wide if it's indoors, but it is going to get pretty substantial indoors, as will the Alocasia or the philodendrons. They are also indoor plants, but they will get substantial, so make sure you're giving them room. Then we get to this. This is sort of a ground cover, sort of an interior plant. This is called a Foxdale Fern, and it's in the asparagus family. There is another fern that's called an asparagus fern, but this is very different from an asparagus fern in that it's very structured, it grows up high, and it has these very defined leaves, shape really looks pretty much like a fox's tail. The asparagus fern does not have this defined shape, and it billows out and down. This one is more structured and up. So if you want a plant that's more structured and up, this is a great choice. Indirect sunlight for this one also. And if you need to get additional plants from this, you can always literally cut a piece and have that set up in a pot. And when it's pretty established, then you can put it in the ground. But a wonderful plant, very drought tolerant. It has these tubers underneath that helps it to keep and retain moisture or water. Here's another beautiful specimen of the Weeks Red Philodendron. This one is getting a little bit less sun, so it has a deeper green, a richer green appearance to it. So that's what will happen. If it gets more sun, it will be a lighter green. The less sun that it's getting, it's a deeper green. This has a little bit more canopy covering it, so it is getting a little bit less sun. I'd love to show you the flower because you can see that flower a little bit better on this plant. I want to show you this new growth. So this is a new leaf coming up. Isn't it stunning? Just yesterday it was encased completely in red. Now it's coming out. And this is what the flower looks like, if you can get a really good shot of that. It will be below the leaf, so you won't really see it until you're upon the plant. Oh my gosh. So this beauty here is a croton. This particular variety that has the long, slender leaves is called Zanzibar. There is another long, slender leaf croton, but it's not as colorful. It's green and yellow. This one will have colors of purple and red and orange and yellow and green. A wonderful way to have color in your landscaping without relying on annuals or perennials, right? So if you don't have time to do annuals and perennials, a wonderful way to get color into your garden. This is about 6 feet wide. It'll get about 6 feet high, and we have 2 of those. We have another beautiful one in the corner. Then let's talk about this. This is another philodendron, and this one is called Philodendron melanoni. And so it could be epiphytic. Here's the roots. If this were vining around a tree or latching on, these would be much fatter, and it would be with these roots. Or it could be terrestrial, as we have it here. And if you look closely, you can literally take this plant. This is one plant right here. You can cut that out, set that in a pot. When it's established, you have another plant. Beautiful. This is melanoni, Philodendron melanoni. I love the upright structure of this, and the leaves, again, it's going to get about 4 feet wide, about 4 feet high. Just absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. And last but not least, I want to talk about this tree. This is the only fruiting tree that we have, and it's called jabuticaba. It is native to South America, very popular in Brazil, and it produces a fruit directly on the trunk. Directly on the trunk. It's so unusual. They're grape-like in size and more like a muscadine grape. It's a thicker skinned sort of grape-like fruit, and the flesh is white. It isn't really, the fruit is not really imported because it has a very short shelf life. So you really, if you're gonna actually taste the jabuticaba fruit, then you have to have a tree that was grown in the United States. Now these are young trees, so we may not get fruit for another 5 years, and it's having a bit of an issue with the browning at the edges, and I just need to figure out how to care for this better so that we can keep this looking green and healthy. I want to point out something. I want to show you the Alocasia over here. This is the Alocasia Regal Shield. And the ones that we showed you first came from these. They literally, these rhizomes just came off and we planted them. You can see that this is not in the best location because the growth is stunted, the color is not as beautiful, and it's not in the right place, so we really need to move that. When you compare these two that we had originally to the plant, that came from it, you can see what it would look like in the right location. So that's always important. Make sure you're picking the right plant for the right location. We don't always get it right because we want things to look a certain way, but it may not be the best for the plant. So we're gonna have to move those, and then they'll just become as stunning as the plants that came from them. Well, it is another hot day in South Florida. I'm sweating. I'm always apologizing for sweating. But I hope you enjoyed this tour. We have some other things to go over, a whole bunch of plants. Remember, I talked about doing some gardening and setting some seeds. I haven't gotten to it yet, but we'll do that. But I appreciate you joining me. Please comment, like, subscribe. I would really love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.